This week's edition of NJBIA's Minding Your Business is brought to you in part by AT&T, helping family, friends, and neighbors connect in meaningful ways every day. From the first phone call 140 years ago to mobile video streaming today, AT&T innovates to improve lives. New Jersey's community colleges, aligning education to build an innovative workforce. Find out how your business can join and benefit at njpathways.org. And by New Jersey Business Magazine, providing the critical information needs for New Jersey's business community for more than 65 years.
Welcome to NJBIA's Minding Your Business. I'm your host, Bob Considine. Well, we're entering the busiest time of the year at the State House, so we figured why not invite the busiest person in Trenton here to get us started today. NJBIA's Chief Government Affairs Officer, Chrissy Buteas, is here to discuss the latest developments under the Golden Dome that are impacting New Jersey businesses. Chrissy, thank you so much for being back here.
Thanks, Bob, for having me.
And thanks for sparing a few minutes. I know you're very busy today.
Thank you.
So, speaking of busy today, you're going to be at the State House in just a few minutes after we tape this. And you're going to be doing a committee panel regarding cannabis and workplace safety. What's going on over there?
So the Senate Judiciary Committee is holding a hearing today on the status of the regulations coming out of the Cannabis Review Commission. Mm-hmm. We have a particular interest in seeing regs move forward because, as we've talked about a lot on this show and also with our membership, that we are able to maintain a drug-free workplace. However, if you do drug tests, you need to have a physical examination performed by what are known as wires.
These are workplace impairment recognition experts.
You got it.
Good.
And so right now the regulations do not exist that tell us exactly how that process is going to work.
Okay.
So the law's in effect, but we don't have regulations explaining how these wires are going to be put in effect by the business community. And so we have the law, no regulations, and a lot of gray area.
So there's a statute, but basically no rules as well.
Exactly.
And we should explain that these wires are needed because a cannabis test by itself isn't going to determine whether you're impaired or not.
Exactly. Okay. So THC remains in your bloodstream for various periods of time. Mm-hmm. So if an employer were to drug test and it comes up positive for cannabis, they are unable to just take action based on having THC in the bloodstream.
Got it.
So they need to have a physical examination performed by somebody who meets certain certifications, but we're still waiting to see exactly how that's going to play out. Keeping in mind right now that is also being challenged. This type of drug recognition expert is being challenged within the New Jersey Supreme Court as well.
Yeah, so there's a whole lot going on. But maybe I'm oversimplifying this, but it seems like you almost can't tell if somebody's impaired. Yet, if you're an employer, you might not be able to do anything about it, or you might be held liable if there's a certain accident.
Exactly.
Are you hearing that from businesses?
Absolutely. So what we've been encouraging our business to do is take every action that you can to protect yourself, protect your employees. Mm-hmm. It's really important to look at your handbook. It's really important to make sure that if you do see somebody impaired, that you have somebody at least, acknowledge that they perform something inappropriately on the job site, because the doing nothing is also very concerning. God forbid somebody does get hurt.
And I know over the past year, yourself and Ray Canner, NJBIA Vice President of Government Affairs, have been in contact with the Cannabis Regulatory Commission. And basically the thing is, if there's going to be wires, here's some recommendations. I'm going to read some of the recommendations here that they've been offered to the CRC. Just 4 of them. Allow for a wide variety of entities to provide training for wires, including businesses and private business associations. Number 2, allow for the use of national certification boards or other professional accreditations to certify wires rather than relying on a narrow set of criteria specified by the state police. Allow physical examination by wires to be done virtually, and provide that an adverse employment action does not preclude employers from removal of certain employees who are prohibited from doing their assigned jobs because of their inability to pass a drug test for cannabis. So, Chrissy, those are out there. What is a timeline here for CRC? Legalized adult use cannabis has been in effect, as we tape this, about nearly a month now. So what's the next steps?
Still yet to be seen.
Okay.
So we're waiting on the Cannabis Review Commission to take action on their next round of regulations. We understand that the next round, at least the draft, should be coming out in the near future. However, we still don't know if they're going to address the workplace safety provisions within the statute at this time.
Wow.
And so we have also been asking for an FAQ document, to be placed on their website.
Right.
So if an employer does have questions, and we know there are a lot of questions, that at least we have some guidance in the interim, because this is a complicated matter.
Yeah.
It's the only state in the nation that is going to require this type of physical examination to be done by a wire. And so those rules are really important to make sure that businesses understand clearly exactly what is expected of them.
Okay, very good. So we'll pivot now from buds to budget. I just thought of that myself. We are here, we're in budget season, right in the thick of it. The governor has proposed a $48.9 billion budget for FY23. It's the largest budget in our state's history, 5.4% higher than FY22. Yet for all that spending, only 0.1% of the budget is allocated for small business relief. So, Chrissy, why is it important that the small business community is better represented by this budget?
We all know that it's been really challenging for our business community, especially coming out of the pandemic, to get back up on its feet. You can just walk around, talk to any of your Main Street business owners, see that they're also having trouble hiring at this point in time, getting that qualified workforce, which is something NJBIA has been very focused on.
Right.
So with the budget and seeing the increase, we were pleased to see that the governor put in a full pension payment.
Right.
We obviously support, education funding, but the increase in spending is concerning for us due to the sustainability of it moving forward. So let me dig in a little bit further. Currently, we're seeing the expenditures exceeding our revenues.
Okay.
So,
that's not good.
Not good. So when you take away a lot of the federal funding that has come into the state of New Jersey, what does that look like moving forward? And so that's concerning for the business community, because we don't see a lot of relief in this budget, and we're really not sure in the future, how are we going to sustain everything, all the programs, all the funding that has been put in place? And so looking out, not just for this upcoming year, but for the years to come, is really where the focus of NJBIA's advocacy is at this current time, knowing that the federal funds at some point are just not going to be there.
Yeah. I'm also thinking about now, I know we're talking about, we have to think about it in the future, but now businesses, really everybody, small businesses in particular, they have such small margins. And now we're dealing with, obviously, the hiring challenges, but inflation is through the roof, and you've got fuel costs are through the roof. So these are also considerations, right?
Absolutely. So we're seeing the expense side of the balance sheet, or the P&L go up at this point, and that is concerning, because you are spending more at the pump, and we know that impacts the costs of goods that consumers purchase, and that's the same for the business owner who has to purchase as well. And so there really is an impact that goes throughout the entire supply chain, and very important to keep an eye on as we move forward, because we want to make sure that the economy is growing. We don't want to see it go backwards, especially after coming out of a pandemic.
Right. Let's turn a little bit to taxation. NJBIA recently released its 2022 Business Climate Analysis by Kyle Sullender, your Director of Economic Policy Research. And it shows New Jersey, again, significantly trailing the rest of the region in business climate, with the highest corporate business tax, state sales tax, property tax rate, and the second highest top income tax rate in the region. So, Chrissy, as we're going through budget season, and taxation is still a conversation, we're always hearing about affordability in New Jersey, but what about business affordability in New Jersey? Is that top of mind for the legislature at all?
Affordability is a big deal for the business community. We want to make sure that the legislature also knows that it's a big deal for the business community as well. We're pleased to see that there is a lot of focus on affordability as a whole. It could be affordability for New Jersey residents. We just are reminding them, please make sure you're including our business owners in that as well. As you just alluded to, We already have some of the highest taxes in the region, and that matters because of our competitiveness, especially now when our employees are able to be much more flexible and remote. They're going to choose where they want to live. Employers are going to have to react to where that workforce is in the future. We want to make sure that we're competing with other states to attract those good jobs to New Jersey, to maintain those good jobs in New Jersey. So I alluded to the fact that our budget has increased. We already have some of the highest taxes in the region. That concerns us. Where else are we going to increase in the future?
I mean, you're reminding me as you're talking about regional competitiveness, CBT rate, New Jersey is the highest in the nation, and right across the river. Pennsylvania is looking to lower theirs.
Correct.
So that can actually be an impact right there for businesses that are looking to either grow or expand, right?
Let's go right over the river.
All right. Another proponent of budgets, actually it's law now. Governor Murphy has proposed the Anchor Property Tax Relief Program. It's not law, it's almost there. $900 million in property tax relief for $1.8 million homeowner, 1.8 million homeowners and renters. But Chrissy, that program does not include business, correct?
Correct.
That's not a good thing when you consider that businesses are paying about half the property taxes in the state.
And I think that's a key point to remember. Businesses pay over half of the property taxes in the state of New Jersey. Impacts our entire business community. So when we're looking at affordability, we're looking at one is the most important issue our businesses face, which is property taxes. We want to make sure that they're included in any solution that's put forward.
All right, so speaking of other taxes, Chrissy, unemployment insurance taxes. Businesses are now looking at a $1 billion increase in those taxes for 3 years to replenish the state's unemployment insurance trust fund. Where's this going?
We hope that this one crosses the finish line. So our businesses are on the hook for replenishing the unemployment trust fund. Again, really at no fault of their own. During the pandemic, they had to unfortunately lay off some of their employees. I think we all know that unemployment claims were at an all-time height. So that replenished, the fund. So now we're going to repay it. We do have a federal loan that we took out, and that also has to be repaid. So where are we today? Employers have to pay back into the unemployment trust fund. What NJBIA has been asking for is that we use some of the federal funds that have not been allocated towards any other use, like other states have done, over 30 of them, to use some of those funds to help out the employer community. That's what the funds were there for. We think it's a great use. It'll impact every employer in the state of New Jersey. And so there are a couple of pieces of legislation that exist that would certainly be a step in the right direction. They provide tax credits. They use federal funds. They provide more transparency into the health of the fund, as well as making sure there's not a column increase, which also increases the amount that our employers have to pay back. So any combination of those would be a great step in the right direction.
I'm wondering if businesses are aware of this or if they're budgeting for it over the next 3 years. This could be substantial for some of them.
I'm sure they're aware of it. I don't know if they're budgeting for it. And again, this is not something that they traditionally would have to keep as close of an eye on. But again, because the fund went to zero, now it's a really big deal. And we want to make sure that it's healthy for the future.
And it's amazing. We have all this money in federal funding, what have you, and we're still paying off a federal loan that's still not paid off yet.
Correct.
It doesn't make no sense.
So we want to, again, use those federal funds to help out the business community. We really do appreciate some of our lawmakers stepping up and proposing certain solutions that we've been supporting. We encourage our employers to reach out to their respective legislators, to the governor's office, and ask that they get some relief by using some of these federal dollars and or some tax credits that will go a long way.
Okay. So before we let you get to the State House right across the street, I have to ask you, we're about 6 weeks out from the budget deadline of June 30th. And we've seen years where it's burning the midnight oil and backroom deals are made. And we've also seen easier years of late. What do you think the situation is going to be this year?
Still to be determined. So we still have about 6 weeks to go. I do anticipate, knowing that we still have federal dollars that have not been spent or allocated at this point, that'll be a big topic of conversation as we head into June 30th.
Right.
But I could assure you, NJBIA, our entire team, our entire lobbying team will be over at the State House to make sure that we're, keeping the business community front and center during any negotiations.
I'm sure you will. Great job, Chrissy. Thank you.
Thanks, Bob.
All right, and we'll be back right after these words.
You're first. First to respond. First to put others' lives before your own. And in an emergency, you need a network that puts you first, that connects you to technology and each other, that's built with and for first responders. FirstNet, the only officially authorized wireless network for first responders. Because putting you first is our job.
Okay, at AT&T, everyone gets our best deals on all smartphones.
Let me break it down. You got your new customers.
They get our best deals.
You got your existing customers.
They also get our best deals. Everyone gets the deals.
Questions.
Got it. But why did you use a permanent marker?
Because I want to make sure you remember.
I'm gonna get a new whiteboard.
It's not complicated. Only AT&T gives everyone our best deals on every smartphone, like the Samsung Galaxy S21 5G for free.
Welcome back to NJBIA's Minding Your Business. I'm Bob Considine. Well, NJBIA's busy calendar of networking events is now officially in overdrive, and here to discuss all of that, as well as her new professional development company called Blue Feather Consulting, is NJBIA Vice President of Strategic Partnerships, Kate Conroy. Kate, thank you for being here, and welcome back to the desk.
Thank you so much. I don't think you and I have ever done this before. It's
We
usually
haven't.
Vinny and I, which this is
know.
exciting.
It is exciting. I don't know if I've been this excited here at the show until now.
Am I your best guest?
Absolutely, so far. Thanks for being here, everybody.
Sorry about it.
Anyway, so Kate, before we get to all of NJBIA-ville,
Right.
which you're so much in charge of, let's talk about this. This is Blue Feather Consulting, your new business endeavor. What is it and what inspired you to do it?
Sure. It's a very small consulting practice right now. I've only got a couple of clients on purpose because, as you know, BIA takes up the lion's share of my time.
Yes.
And that's a good thing.
It is a good thing.
So I was invited to speak at a conference last fall to a group of young professionals on how to do business development and networking and follow-up communication, stuff like that. And I had such a blast. It had never occurred to me that, the 18 years of business development experience that I have under my belt could possibly be useful in anything other than just continued business development.
Right.
But you don't think about it. So attorneys and engineers and accountants, they go through school with nobody ever teaching them how to do business development.
Right.
But if they want to get on the partner track and stay on the partner track, business development is absolutely part of that game.
Right.
And so it is, unless you have like a really nice partner who's going to take you under their wing and show you the ropes, you're kind of left to your own devices.
And you could be that nice, kind partner.
That's exactly right.
Right.
That's exactly right.
And in looking at your website, which is oddly enough called bluefeatherconsulting.com, what I really got a good sense of is this is all about helping relationship building too, isn't it?
Yeah.
How important is that?
It's the most important. It's the most important. I mean, the networking piece is so critical. The business development is so critical. People do business with people they know, like, and trust. And the knowing and the liking are the most important piece of that. You can't get to the trust without knowing and liking somebody.
Right.
So the relationship cultivation is absolutely critical. No matter what you want to do, the more people who are in your network, the more successful you're going to be later on in life.
So one of the things I think is great, Kate, is you're out there on social media with this new company. You're providing tips, creating awareness for your brand here. And one of the tips you gave online was networking with a buddy is a completely legitimate way to get to a networking event if you're an introvert.
Yes.
I'm wondering if that has been the case for you in the past in your 18 years plus doing this, or even for a colleague.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm definitely guilty of what we call clumping.
Clumping.
Yeah, so if you go to a networking event or dinner or something like that with a bunch of colleagues, the instinct often is to just hang out with those colleagues because you never get to see them otherwise.
Right.
You have dinner with them, you kind of stay in that really nice social
Plus
circle.
gossip.
Gossip is the best, isn't it? No, I'm just kidding. But if you want to do business development, if that is the goal, you have to push outside that comfort zone and actually work the room. So the best way to do that, if you're an introvert or if you're an empath, is to work the room with a buddy. So if you and I were at a networking event, we could totally do it together as long as we stayed together working the room. You have to keep moving is the goal.
Yeah, for me, it's a little bit different. I'm, as you know, quite an introvert. And I find at networking events that we have, I will walk into the room with 2 minutes left, going through a back entrance, and then grabbing the phone and go, I can't believe how many people wanted to talk to me as I walk to the front of the room.
I know. I'm an empath. And so I absorb the energy from people. And so being in close confines with a huge group of people has always been challenging for me. And so finding friendly faces and attaching myself to them one at a time or together as we move through, it's absolutely the way to do it if you need to.
One more tip, if I could, Kate. This one is really good point. Don't ever take sales personally.
Yeah.
That's why they call it business.
Yeah.
Business development, I should say. So how much of a lesson that needs to be taught?
Oh my God. It's so easy to, depending on how long your sales cycle is. Some people it's 3 months, some people it's a year, some people it's longer, some people it's, a day.
Right.
But if you're working a prospect for 3 or 4 months, lunches, emails, phone calls, and then the deal doesn't go through, it can be really easy to take it personally because you've developed this relationship, almost a quasi friendship.
Yeah.
And the person feels genuinely bad that it didn't happen, and you have to just buck up and say, this isn't personal. And in fact, I've used this in my sales techniques. I have said to people before, if this doesn't work out, that's totally fine.
Right.
You and I are always going to have a relationship. We'll be friends.
Right.
Don't feel any kind of pressure. And that radical honesty immediately makes you more trustworthy to the prospect.
And it kind of takes the onus off them as well.
100%. The pressure is immediately gone.
Right. All right. So again, it's Blue Feather Consulting. At Blue Feather Consulting, where'd you get the name?
the name. So I had a whole list of names. I've always liked birds and I love the color blue. And I had a whole list of names and they were all taken online. And so I kept plugging in this list of names into that search engine that tells you what social media accounts are still available. Yeah. Blue Feather was the first one that came up. And then afterward, I discovered that blue feathers actually symbolize communication and self-expression. And I was like, perfect.
That's good.
The universe was really looking out for me.
Right. And the Blue Jays love it too, right?
I love the Blue Jays.
Right.
I mean, I'm a Twins fan. I like the actual bird, the Blue Jay.
Got it. You won't be big in Toronto necessarily.
No, I'm sorry.
Okay, so let's go over, Kate, to events. It seems to me, I cannot believe, I obviously I work here, but the amount of events coming out of this association is just miraculous.
Yeah.
Where are we up to now?
I can't even. I think we're almost at 200 for the year.
Wow.
It's crazy. In fact, I was just at an event yesterday. Danielle Wink and I got to a hotel at 6 a.m. to set up for an HR event yesterday. Wow. It seems never ending, but they're all so worthwhile and relevant, and they deliver such amazing content to the membership. Yeah, it's really rewarding and awesome.
And everybody says the same thing. Nobody does events like NJBIA.
It's true. Yeah. It's true. I've been to a lot of events in New Jersey. I'm sure you can imagine. We are the gold standard.
And what do we have coming up next?
So next is a really fun one. On May 24th is the golf outing.
It's just a few days from now, right?
Oh my God, I know, just a few days from now.
Right.
I can't even, I don't even want to think about what time I have to wake up that day.
Right.
But it's going to be at Fiddler's Elbow in Bedminster, I believe. And we sell out 2 of their 3 courses. We start, I believe, with like a 9 a.m. shotgun. And then afterward, there's a lunch and awards. Right. It is one of the funnest golf outings I've ever been to. It's great.
And, I think this is the 51st.
Yeah.
And do you know what last year was the 50th?
Yep.
You know what the gift is for the 50th?
I don't officially know, but I believe it's a shirt.
No, I mean when you have a 50th anniversary.
Oh, isn't it silver?
It's gold.
It's gold?
Do you know what it is for 51st?
Paper.
Blue feather. Yep.
I love that. I'm going to have to buy some feathers.
And it's not a hybrid event, we should point out.
It's not a hybrid event. Golf is fully in person.
Right. You should check it out. All these events are at njbia.com/events.
That's
and
right.
What else do we have coming up at the golf day?
So on June 23rd, we have our annual Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Summit, which is going to be a half day. This is going to be fully virtual, just to ensure that as many people as possible can attend. And it is one of my favorite events of the year. We've only been doing it a couple of years. This
Yeah.
is kind of a relatively new group.
Important space.
Really important space. Our DE&I Council meets monthly for speakers and networking, and they drive this summit.
Right.
And they have put together just an incredible lineup of speakers. We've got a keynote from John Harmon, who's the president.
We love John.
Oh, we
yeah.
love John, yeah. So yeah, it's just going to be absolutely fantastic.
Right. Okay, and what else? The big one.
The big one is
Go
coming
ahead.
up.
Enjoy it. This is your stage, Kate.
September, I know. Okay, so the Women Business Leaders Forum, as you know, has been virtual the last 2 years because of COVID, which was really hard. This year we were coming back so strong. It is going to be live. There will be no part of this that is virtual.
Wow.
Live at Caesars Atlantic City.
Atlantic City.
Yes, it's going to
Going
be a 2-day event. We're going to get there on Wednesday the 28th. We have got lunch planned, networking, 9 different breakouts that day,
Wow.
plus a reception, a networking reception that night. And then the next morning we get up and we do breakfast and networking and one last general session panel on leadership,
Great.
some TED Talks.
Right.
And we're going to get you out of there by noon that day. So
That's great.
think of it as 2 half days. You don't have to miss a whole lot of work. It's going to be just, the content of that event is always amazing.
And you can stay overnight, right?
You can stay overnight.
That's great.
Yeah.
What hotel? What?
Caesars Atlantic
Caesars
City.
Atlantic City.
And if you want to, you can always tell your partner that it's a 3-day event. You can stay that Friday as well. We won't be there, but you could be there.
Right. Absolutely. All right. Well, Kate Conroy, great job with all the events to you and your team and the events team at
Thank
NJBIA.
you.
And best of luck with Blue Feather
Thank
Consulting.
you so much.
All right. Thanks for being here.
It was my pleasure.
NJBIA recently held a webinar called Your Business and Cannabis. In addition to a talk on workplace safety and cannabis, there was also an interesting discussion on critical workforce development needs for a growing industry. We take you now to that discussion with a panel of cannabis industry experts on that very subject. Have a look.
There's going to be all kinds of great jobs. I mean, there's going to be jobs that are plant-touching jobs. They're going to be working for Curaleaf and cultivation. We're going to have HR professionals. We're going to have basically mechanical engineers working on equipment. You're going to have your store associates. There's a whole host of jobs just internally that you would have at any other company. So cannabis is a business, and just like any other business, it's a somewhat new product for people. So people are trying to wrap their heads around it. But at the end of the day, you're going to have attorneys and accountants and service professionals and customer outreach, and you're going to have marketing folks. And so any profession, whether it's the janitorial services all the way up to the CEO and everything on the ancillary market as well, it's the same thing. So whatever you're thinking about, in a traditional business, that's exactly what you're going to find in the cannabis business. But it has so many different facets. So the manufacturing, the cultivation, and so forth.
At our dispensary settings in New Jersey, we've been adding obviously like more associates to help with all the increase in flow that we've seen there. We've also at Curaleaf tripled our cultivation capacity in the state. So like with adding all of those people, we need more HR, more IT, more finance, all those roles that you would think of in a typical business. We're adding all of those as well.
Something that we've heard over the last year or so is we've really been exploring what the cannabis industry needs in terms of coming from higher education, is that it's pretty close to being its own economy. It needs everything, and they need transferable skills to come into that space. So to extend what Scott was saying, you can think about they need accountants, they need people in finance, they need people in supply chain. Everything, any kind of job that exists somewhere, it's eventually going to be needed in cannabis.
Right, it's a business. At the end of the day, it's a business. And if you have talent that you've pre-existing talent and skills from your past jobs and you're looking to transfer those into the cannabis industry, there are training programs, small training programs that can give you that little bit of industry insight so you know how to position yourself and your skills for these new jobs in the cannabis industry.
All that transitional skill sets is going to be there. There are challenges with cannabis as an industry because it's still federally illegal. So banking's harder and different. How we deduct our traditional business taxes are different. So you not just want to get an accountant, you're going to need an accountant who's familiar with concepts like 280E, which is a subset of the tax code, things like that. Just going to be a different type of different type of accounting. And then on the marketing side, there's a lot of restrictions because of the nature of this industry. So having those professionals who can work through those nuances are going to be important. So getting job training at state colleges, community colleges is a very important part of the process.
All right. Thanks to the panelists at NJBIA's recent cannabis event. And thank you for joining us on NJBIA's Minding Your Business. We'll see you next time.